What is going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to install the Black Forest Industries motor mounts and transmission mount. These guys. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to remove your intake tube, battery tray, and get all this stuff out of the way basically so that you have room to work. You do need to get underneath all this in order to get to the motor mount on this side, or the transmission mount, sorry, on this side. And then as far as everything goes for here, for the motor mount side, just have to move this out of the way, which it's just kind of clipped in by clip here, and then you can kind of just shove the thing out of the way. As far as other stuff goes, there is fuel lines and a couple things that do get in the way a little bit of this, but they can kind of get pushed around and everything. But once you move this out of the way, you can pretty much access all that. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is actually probably remove the intake. So personally, I use a 7 millimeter to loosen up the clamp here. Now, grant you, if you have I have the APR intake, and if you have the stock intake, some of the tools here for removing the intake will be a little different, but for the most part, it's all the same as far as concept of how everything works. But all right, that's good. Now I need to remove the Torx here, which is a T25, and then there's also a 7 millimeter here on this back piece, which I'm going to remove that, loosen that right now. Kind of jiggle that off like so, and then I'm going to remove, just so it's out of the way. Now I have to remember to put that back in. Start removing this with the T25. And then you'll have one here, but mine's broken here, so I don't have to remove it because it actually broke, which is very common if you take this off and put this on a lot. So, but from here, you just kind of, normally you'll have to like pop it up and everything, but mine, yes. Now you will need to remove the 10 millimeter here, 10 millimeter here, loosen this 10 mil, and then there's a 10 mil here. You won't have this. This is for my audio, and then loosen this 10 mil here. Like this. Pull that up out of the way. And then now, get to working on loosening these. And then normally there's some clips here. Mine are kind of not there. Well, they are, but they aren't. But you can kind of just pull up on the clips here and here. And yeah, you're good there. There's a 13 millimeter here, but I'm gonna remove this 13 mil, slide the battery out, and pull it out. Now just slide the battery forward and pull it out. All right, so the next thing you need to do is remove the battery tray, and to do that, you remove this 10 mil, and there's another 10 mil down here, as well as there is there should be a 10 mil nut back here, but I guess mine got lost somewhere, so I don't have it anymore. And I would be careful because these do tend to kind of strip a little bit, so just be careful with this. Now I go and I set all my stuff in the factory tray for holding bolts that Volkswagen provides you right here. Okay, once you get to like that, I said normally you can pop that up, get this kind of out of the way, and then Normally there's a bolt in the back, or a nut in the back, but that goes over here, but it doesn't. It looks like it might have actually went through it or something. I don't know. Now, at this point, I recommend using something to hold the engine up. You can either use a jack and jack stand, and you can jack the car up and use jack stands, or personally, I'm going to end up setting up one of those support bars because it just ends up a little better. Personally, I think you can actually, you know, lift it and it keeps everything straight versus, and since everything's like sitting where it's supposed to be, it'll keep it all in place. All right, so at this point, I have the engine held on this side at least by the support bar. Ended up having it settling here and here on these frame rails, basically. Now that it's supported, next thing you're going to do is going to end up removing these bolts here, but I do those last actually. I like to get to the other ones first, which in order to get to these, you have to pull up on this, which would be for the wiring harness, and kind of get underneath all that. If you really, really want, you can remove the ECU here too to help get some, or at least move the ECU, which in all honesty I might do. I'll just do that. Kind of get that out of the way a little bit for now. Set that wherever. But basically, I'm gonna actually, there we go. So if you pull up on that, you can kind of get to the bolts that are here, but in order to really get to those bolts, you have to pop this cover up too. So basically you just use a screwdriver to start popping this cover up here. There's these little clips here that you just unclip use a little screwdriver and unclip them. And you can pull all this up, and there's holes to get through to where you can get to the bolts underneath. And from there, you should be good to go. All right, so I actually went ahead and took the whole cover off, and by doing so, there's actually a couple of, you can kind of get in there a little better. I mean, it's still going to be a tight thing no matter what. You're going to have to maneuver this wiring harness thing around a little bit. Personally, I recommend getting like swivel sockets to really get these, which I do have, but there's 2 bolts here and 2 bolts here, and then the 3 bolts up top, and the whole mount comes out. I'm just going to make sure that this is lifted a little, so by doing moving this, it'll actually lift the engine up or down based off of things. But I'm going to go ahead and get these 3 bolts undone, and then I'm going to work on getting these 4 bolts here, the 2 on this side and 2 on this, the 2 on this side and 2 on this side. So as far as size goes, these are all 18s or 19s. Yours will be a little different. So these ones are 19s here, and these are with the BFI kit because I already have the stage 1s. So these came with the BFI kit, but yours will be 18s, and then the ones on the side will be 16s. I was able to use an impact and get those out pretty easily. I like using an impact for this stuff. I'm going to use a 16 mil and get those bolts out. All right, so I got a little ahead of myself, but basically what I did was, since the new mounts, the top bolt doesn't come pre-torqued because you need to be able to maneuver it a little bit. But I pulled the other one out. I just used a combination of either swivel sockets or whatever and maneuvering this thing around and everything to get it out and, you know, removing those. But I put the new one in already. The 3 bolts that go to the motor mount, or that go to the transmission itself, get torqued at 44 foot-pounds. and the 4 16 millimeters get torqued at 34 foot-pounds. And then the center 6 millimeter Allen key that's right here, that gets torqued to 40 foot-pounds, okay? And once you have everything torqued and in place and all good, then in all reality, you can relieve the stress off this, and everything should just hang like so. But basically, yeah, that's how you do the transmission mount. The motor mount itself is kind of reversive removal. There's a couple of extra things that you have to deal with. Personally, I have the Uniflex module here, so I'm going to have to remove the bolt that's here. But yeah, so I'm going to put this side back together, reversive removal, and then I'm going to move on to the motor mount. All right, so I got the battery tray and all that stuff back in. I'm going to actually wait to hook up the battery and install this part here, because I'm going to move on to this. And basically for this, there's a flathead screwdriver thing that you're going to have to do here. Personally, I like to remove this plug right here for right now. And then there's a little, you're gonna have to use a flathead screwdriver. There's a clip back here that you're just gonna press in, and the whole thing will pull up. Press it in, and then the whole thing just kind of pops up. And then me personally, I just like to push this to the side a little bit. You may leak a little bit of coolant from this, but don't be too alarmed, it's not bad. So yeah, I'm gonna get the engine support brace set up again and hook it onto this hook right here this time. And then I'll show you how to do the rest. All right, so now that the engine support bar is in place, I'm gonna basically be just kind of moving these out of the way here. But there's an important step here. There's a ground wire that's right here that goes from the chassis here to the engine mount, and it's a 10 mil and a 10 mil, and you need to make sure you do not lose that ground wire, and make sure you put that ground wire back on before you try to start the car, because the engine will do some funny things if it's not grounded or not even start. So I'm gonna get to doing that first before I do anything else, and then I will show you how to do the rest. For the most part on this side, it's actually only 2 bolts for the engine and 2 bolts for the engine mount, and then 1 bolt back here. Like I said, this one, I have the Uniflex module here, so it's a little covering that, but say it's a 12 millimeter, 2 16 millimeters, the 2 10s for the ground, and then these bolts is one's an 19 and one's an 18. So, all right, so I removed the 2 10 millimeters, and this is actually a 13 millimeter, but I removed the 2 10s, and I'm about to take this ground wire, and this is what the ground wire looks like. This part goes on the engine side, and it has a little area where this part kind of hooks into, and this part goes on the chassis side. Make sure you do not lose this, and make sure you reuse it. Set that up there. And as for the nuts, I believe the kit comes with new ones. No, it does not actually. So make sure you, this is the kit that comes with the motor mount. This one's for the chassis side, and this one's for the engine side. So make sure you do not lose those nuts, because you will need to reuse them. And now I'm going to get to one's out. I'm probably going to end up having to use a breaker bar for that one, because that one here is a little bit in the way of where I need to be, so I'm going to use a breaker bar and get that one broken loose. Okay. Which, if you do it right and you have the engine held up properly, then you should be able to just loosen it, and then you should be able to just by hand loosen this until it comes out like so. And now it's just 2 16 millimeters, and the whole thing comes out. This front one's... Apparently that is not a 16. Look at that. It's a 15. Okay, that might be why. Look at that. Okay. Now the back one, let me reconfirm that one for you, because apparently I'm wrong. Yeah, it's a 16. Okay, so back one's 16, front one's 15. Well, again, this is if you already have BFI motor mounts on, but I mean, factory should be both 16s. Now that that's done, you should be able to just pull this thing out and just kind of maneuver it out like so, and you'll be good. You just throw the other one back in, reverse the removal. Try not to hit any of the components. Okay. All right. Like that. Okay, personally, I like to get all the bolts on the engine as well as everything in a little loose and then tighten everything, so that's what I'm gonna do. Big guy without the little thing there goes here. Big guy with the little stud goes in the back. Get them in hand tight first. Little guy with stud goes in the back. You can kind of get everything in place. So now I'm going to just kind of, I'm not going to fully tighten them at this. I'm just going to kind of run it in like so. I'll come back and torque everything as it needs to be in a bit after. Yeah, I'm going to get all this torqued down and tightened down, and we'll go from there. All right, so I have everything in. Basically, I'm gonna go ahead and torque this down to the 40 foot-pounds that it needs to be torqued down to, and then the 2 engine mount bolts here get torqued to 44, and these here, the frame bolts, get torqued to 32. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and we'll get back. All right, so I went ahead and torqued everything. This one, it's a 6mm Allen key, and I torqued it to 40 foot-pounds as it says on the BFI instructions. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get this ground reinstalled. And this is another reason why I wanted the battery disconnected still, because messing with grounds and wiring and everything while the battery's connected is not always the best. So this one's, it's a little tricky to get that bottom one on the chassis. You just gotta kind of get your hand in there and really move it around. That's about it until it, and you have one side that'll fall off, which luckily it's the top side, so it's easier. But once you do that, then you can just get your 10 mils back on loosely for now, and then just kind of if you did everything right, you should be able to move the tension on the engine. Move the support bar. Put it out of the way somewhere. And then I'm going to move this back into place, and it all just kind of snaps into these little clip holes here until it clicks. Like so. There you go. And now this side's all set to go, and I'm gonna just get the intake back in, get the battery hooked back up, and we will see how much vibration there is from this, because I know there's going to be a lot. So, that being said, I will be back in a few. All right, now if you can see, I have everything reinstalled, intake, battery, all that stuff. When you start the car back up, it's gonna have a bunch of error codes on it, so you're gonna need to turn the steering wheel full lock to the right, then full lock to the left, and then back to center. But at this point, it's just a matter of start it up and see how it feels, which I already know this is gonna be crazy vibration from stage 2 mounts. Plus I have the spherical pendulum mount underneath as well. But yeah, let's go inside and try it. Yeah, I can already tell the vibration. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, guys, that's how you install the Black Forest Industries motor mounts. This goes for stage 1 or stage 2. I did stage 2 because I already had stage 1. Grant you, some of the stuff that I said was a little different on my car because I already had stage 1. However, you can find PDFs and everything on how to actually do it and whatnot. But yeah, that's about it. Total time should take you about, in all honesty, with the right tools, 2 hours maybe. A little longer if you're kind of just hanging out doing whatever. Other than that though, it's not too bad of an install. Hardest part is probably the transmission side. Be sure to go on the website, check out all the performance stuff that we offer. We offer the motor mounts and everything like that on our site as well. I'll leave a link in the description. Give us a follow on Instagram, give us a follow on Facebook, like, all that stuff. If you like this video and would like to subscribe for more mediocre content such as this, please do, and take care.